Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Saturday, the 6th of March. And it is a packed show today. We've got rugby news with Super Rugby action last night. In the cricket, we've got T20 action, both the men's and the women's, between New Zealand and Australia. Sorry, New Zealand, Australia, and New Zealand and England for the women. Test action and also news from the West Indies versus Sri Lanka. We've got NBA and NBL news to bring you, as well as A-League and New Zealand Premiership in the football. Over in the golf, we've got the PGA and LPGA action, the America's Cup in the sailing, as well as UFC and boxing as well. So plenty of action this morning. Hi, I'm Paul, and I'll be your host this morning. This is your best way to start the day up to speed with all of the important sports news. So kicking it off with the boxing, and Kiwi heavyweight Joseph Parker has split with his trainer Kevin Barry after his match with Junior Farley. Won with a points decision. Also, the BBC are reporting that he has agreed to fight on the 1st of May with Chisora, who he was due to fight until he got bit by a spider. So it looks like they've agreed that on FaceTime. Obviously, their legal representatives need to confirm all of that, but potentially the 1st of May is the next time that Parker will be back in action, which isn't that far away. Let's be honest, especially as he hasn't got a coach or a trainer at the moment either. So let's see if that does go ahead there. Over in the UFC, and it's UFC 259 today, with 3 Kiwis in action. In the undercard, in the light heavyweight division, Kennedy Nzechukwu will take on Carlos Ulbeck, who is making his debut in the UFC. Carlos Ulbeck from here in New Zealand, from the same fight venue as Adesanya. Also on the undercard is James Kofane Kara-France, who in the flyweight division will take on Ojiro Bontorini. And there are 3 championship bouts in the bantamweight. Petr Yan will take on Alman Sterling. In the women's featherweight, Amanda Nunes will take on Megan Anderson from Australia. And in the light heavyweight, the champion Jan Blachowicz will take on Israel Adesanya, who is moving up a weight division for this fight. So going to be interesting to see how that one all pans out, folks. So yes, UFC 259 taking place this weekend, and obviously we'll bring you the results from all of that. Coming back to these shores, and the America's Cup was due to get underway today between Emirates Team New Zealand and Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli. Today's and tomorrow's races have been postponed, and it will now start on March the 10th with 2 races on that day. Obviously, that's all due to the COVID levels that have been happening in Auckland. Moving on then to the golf, and it is the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and we're into the second round there. Danny Lee is in action and is at some even pars after a 1 under par in his second round, to be tied 38th currently. The leader, Connors, is at 9 under par in that one. Over in the LPGA, and coming off the back of Lydia Ko's good result at the Cambridge LPGA, she's not going quite so well at the Drive On Championship. Currently, she's tied 9th at 3 under par, 5 shots behind Sigander, the leader, who is at 8 under par in that one. Let's move on to the football then. And in the A-League, one game from Friday with Adelaide United beating Newcastle Jets 2-1 in that one. That sees Adelaide United into third in the table. Newcastle Jets stuck down there in 10th, having a tough old season, just ahead of the Wellington Phoenix, who will be in action tomorrow. Do join us at 9 a.m. for the Knicks newsletter, where the guys will take you through all of the hot news with the Phoenix, review their last game and preview their next game as well. Coming back to these shores for the New Zealand Football Premiership and the last game of the regular season between Hawke's Bay and Eastern Suburbs was postponed due to coronavirus. That game will take place on Wednesday, the 10th of March at 4:15 p.m. Before we have the semi-finals on the 14th of March. Auckland City will host one. It's been decided who they'll host, and Team Wellington will host Hamilton Wanderers in that one. But those games will be, on the Sunday, the 14th of March, before the grand final on the 22nd of March. Over in the basketball, and two games yesterday. First off, over in the NBL over in Australia. First off, the Wildcats lost to the Bullets 95-92, and the Breakers took on Melbourne United. Melbourne United made a good start, taking a 3-point lead in the first quarter, only to be pulled back by the Breakers. But in the second half, the Melbourne United took a narrow lead, which they just held on to win the game, 87-84. Leading Melbourne United was Jock Landale with 23 points for the Breakers. Ty Webster scored 32 points, and whilst Corey Webster got 14 and Thomas Ambacumbi got 13, the others just didn't really produce enough to support Ty Webster in that one. In the NBA, and as always, a stack of action yesterday with 9 games there. Some of the key results saw the Bucks beat the Grizzlies 112-111, a tight one there. It's that 1-point win in that one. The Clippers were downed by the Wizards 119-117 in that one. And also we had the Pelicans in action against the Heat. That's right, Steven Adams' team. Steven Adams got 15 points and 5 rebounds to be unusually one of the highest scorers for his team. The only person who scored more points was Brandon Ingram, but it wasn't enough as the Miami Heat beat the Pelicans 103-93. And they really set up in that first quarter, winning that one 31-15. A massive win early on, and it was always going to be tough to come back from that. Jimmy Butler for the Heat scored 29 points, and Kelly Olynyk got a double-double, 10 rebounds and 18 points. There in that one. Looking at the tables, then the 76ers top the Eastern Conference, just ahead of the Nets by 1 game. With the Bucks also close. Over in the Western Conference, and the Jazz still lead the Suns and the Lakers. Actually, I should mention that the Suns also beat the Warriors 120-98 in that one. Sorry, I missed that result off for you. Moving on then to the cricket, and a host of action there. First off, having a quick catch up with the fourth test between England and India. England were all bowled out for 205 in their first innings in the first day. Ben Stokes top scoring with 55 and Dan Lawrence with 46 there. From a bowling department, Axar Patel chipped in with led the bowlers with 4 wickets, and Ravichandra Ashwin, again amongst the wickets, got 3 wickets there. In reply, India are currently 294 for 7. Pant again scoring 101 runs off just 118 balls, making a mockery of the pitch there. For the English bowlers, James Anderson led the way with 3 wickets in that one, with Ben Stokes and Jack Leach both chipping in with 2 each there. So India still with 3 wickets in hand, lead that one by 89 runs. Also, the West Indies versus Sri Lanka will have played a second T20 today. But all eyes would have been down in Wellington yesterday as New Zealand women took on England's women. New Zealand women went into bat first, and apart from Amy Straithwaite, Strathwaite got 49 off 30 balls, and whilst Amelia Kerr was with her, who scored 25, there was some hope, but no one else really got in and scored runs, and meant that New Zealand posted 123 for 9 off their 20 overs. Leading the way for England was Freya Davis with 4 wickets from her 4 overs in that one. In response, as England chased that 124 runs, Tammy Beaumont again at the top of the order scored 63. And whilst Watt and Shiva went cheaply, so that England were at 2 for 30, she was joined by Heather Knight, who scored 39, and the two of them really chewed off most of that target. That meant that England won it by 124 for 4 with 2 overs and 4 balls to spare. Rosemary Mair with 2 wickets led the bowling for New Zealand in that one. Over on the men's side, and Australia were put into bat first. Aaron Finch batted through the innings to become player of the match with 79 and not out. He really struggled for partners, but Australia still reached 156 for 6 off their 20 overs. Ish Sodhi took 3 wickets in that one, but also Mitchell Santner with his 4 overs just going for 16 runs also took a wicket as well. So very cheap there. In reply, and New Zealand really struggled for any of their batsmen to get in. Carl Jameson, way down the order with 30 off 18 balls, was the only person to get over 20 runs in this one, as New Zealand were all bowled out for 106 with an over and a ball to spare. The wickets were shared around. Kane Richardson with 3, and then three other bowlers took 2 wickets for England, as they won this one comfortably by 50 runs. Sorry, for New Zealand, for Australia, by 50, as Australia won by 50 runs in that one. Moving on to the rugby and 2 Super Rugby games last night. First up, we had the Chiefs versus the Highlanders, and the Chiefs looked in control of this game, as the first yellow card helped them pull out to a 26 lead, and then Ash Dixon was controversially yellow carded after there looked like there was a clear forward pass earlier in play, and I say at 20 to 6, the Chiefs looked like they were about to pull away and get themselves a dominant position. Gatland, though, tried a chip over off a 5-metre line out, and got charged down. Nariki collected that one and ran the length of the field to score, pulling things back to 20 to 11 at half time. In that first half, Joshua Wani also only made 1 of his 4 kicks, but he made up for that in the second half, where his kicking was spot on, and the Highlanders just pulled away. Fakatava starting ahead of Aaron Smith, dummied or stepped and went over off the base of a ruck. And that was the last of his action before Aaron Smith came back on. I mean, great replacements for the Highlanders off the bench in this one. Nariki then scored. Nariki then made a big break for Frizzell to score, and he scored two more tries of his own for a hat-trick, meaning that in the end, the Highlanders pulled out to a comfortable 39-23 win. We also had our first ever captain's challenge from Aaron Smith that was successful, that disallowed a Chiefs try in the last 3 minutes. Sam Kane tried a counter challenge, but was told he left it beyond the 10 seconds and was too late. So well done there from Aaron Smith, and clearly showing that he knew what the laws were and how to use them. So it looks like it's going to be a tough old season for the Chiefs off the back of that performance, not looking particularly well organised, and the Highlanders get themselves a first win of the season after losing to the Crusaders last weekend. The Waratahs versus the Force, and the Waratahs started this one playing some sensible rugby. They got an early try. They were knocking over 3 points to take a 13-0 lead in that one, which was surprising to see after the Waratahs opening 2 games where they've been beaten comfortably in both of them. In the end, though, the Force came through using their forwards for a good early try, and then some key. It looks then another try for the forwards off the top of a 5-minute line out, looping round for a 13-17 lead. The Tars had opportunities, but they kept on just dropping the ball, and it looked like the Force were going to close it out comfortably from there. Only for the replacement hooker to take objection to a player holding onto his jersey and throw a punch and hit a player in the face. Clear red card, and off he went. And even with the new 20-minute and replacement rule, because we're only 16 minutes left of the game, that meant that the rest of the game was played by 14 men by the Force. The Waratahs got within 1 point, but they then gave up a silly penalty, allowing gave a scrum penalty, allowing the Force to pull back out to a 4-point lead. And with the Waratahs never looking like scoring a try, the Force then closed it out, defending their line to win their first game in Super Rugby since they beat the Waratahs back in 2017. They won this one 16-20, and obviously that was their last game in Super Rugby before they got surfed out of it for a couple of years. And didn't win any games last year. So great, very important win for the Force. Not the prettiest of games, but at the end of the day, it was a matter of just getting that win on the board. Their first win back in Super Rugby that was important, not so much the style of it. You have now started the day the best way up to all the important sports news. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and I'll be back at 7 a.m. Tomorrow morning, so you can start your Sunday the best way.